see a lot of the most common mistakes. All right, welcome to the student infield section. This is where you're going to see a lot of the most common mistakes that I see over and over and over again from guys that I coach, right? And you're probably going to recognize some of these mistakes you're doing yourself. I've organized the students roughly in the order of most beginner to most advanced. I haven't watched these extensively in advance. I like to always do footage kind of raw. I like to be seeing it almost for the first time so that my impressions are real. I don't want to know the outcome of the set ahead of time. But I did have a quick look at kind of where the students are at and what their sticking points are. And so as you watch them, student 1 will be kind of the most beginner, student 2 a little more advanced, student 3 the most advanced of the 3, although all 3 of them have very, very common mistakes and plenty of things that you can learn from in their game. So without too much further ado, let's get into the first student.
Excuse me? You look really sporty right now. I feel like you're some kind of like sports model or something.
Okay, so what's good, what's bad about this? So his vocal projection's decent, his tonality a little bit, trying for rapport. You can hear slanting up at the ends. Basically what I mean by that is that the words out of his mouth sound a bit like questions, even when they're declarative statements. Biggest problem though is this. Where is he standing relative to the girl, right? He is behind her. And if you watch the approach angles video that we have in the opening section, we talk a lot about that. We talk about how that is just death to an open, right? I mean, think about it. If she were to turn around, I mean, if she was trying to engage with him, she'd have to be like literally walking with her head like turned backwards. It's very uncomfortable. It's very unlikely. You're just asking to be ignored. Also, it feels a lot like you're following or chasing the girl. So that's going to be a major, major problem.
Huh? What's your name? Where are you going right now?
I'm going to yoga.
Yoga? Damn.
So what do we see so far? We see question after question after question. So that means that, first of all, it's putting her on a pedestal. It's making this interaction all about her. Secondly, you're asking her to provide all the interesting material. You're not providing any of it yourself. And thirdly, she has no idea who you are. She has no idea if you're a cool guy, what your opinions on things are. She has no sampling of your personality. And in a very real sense, what you're trying to do in game is give the girl a sample of your personality as quickly as possible. So that's absolutely not being achieved. Finally, you're putting the girl on a pedestal, right? You're saying, oh, okay, everything about you is important. I'm fascinated by you. All those kind of things. So you're just setting yourself up to come off as low value, to come off as kind of uninteresting, and to come off honestly as a little bit of a burden because you're continually asking her to provide the conversation.
Like a hot yoga, like a new trend, is it actually? Yeah. What is like the difference between hot yoga and just yoga?
It's not a lot. Room is really hot.
Yeah, that makes sense. Hot yoga.
Okay, and here it's becoming very clear that the questions are just filler questions, right? What's the difference between hot yoga and normal yoga? Oh, it's hotter. Okay, got it. So clearly he's kind of, just asking questions for lack of something else to say. We kind of mentioned this the last time I cut it. But what I want to ask is what's missing? Not just what has he done, but what is missing in this interaction? And the answer is actually premise. There is no man-to-woman premise whatsoever, right? He's asked a question. He's never said, hey, you're interesting. Hey, you're cute. Hey, maybe we'll get along. Maybe we won't, right? And so at first that's okay, right? It's okay to not have premise in the first 5 seconds, the first 10 seconds. But over a long enough time, if you don't have any premise, you're going down this route of being very, very platonic, right? So the first time you have an opportunity to show premise and you miss it, it's not necessarily a mistake. Second time is not a mistake. Third time is not a mistake. No time individually is necessarily a mistake. But if you miss an opportunity and miss an opportunity and miss an opportunity and you never get to the point, that's a major mistake. And that's a critical error. Also, we mentioned him, walking behind her. I know he just got kind of picked in a way by these people, but look how far behind her he is, right? It really, really does look and feel like he's chasing, right? So what's going on in this interaction? Tons of questions, tons of putting her on a pedestal, not conveying value. And what isn't going on is getting to the point, showing any premise, right? And so he's managed in a way to look needy and put her on a pedestal without showing any premise, which is the total opposite of what we want to do. What we want to do is be showing premise without putting her on a pedestal. So this is completely the opposite of what you want to be doing.
All right, I'll be honest. I just thought that you were really cute, so I wanted to come and talk to you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay, so finally he gets to the point. Finally he shows premise. But at this point, it's kind of out of desperation, right? And what has she already determined about him? She's already determined, oh, needy guy, oh, following me, oh, asking a lot of questions. At this point, she's already kind of decided she doesn't want much to do with him. And so now, yes, he's showing premise, but he's showing it too little too late. Also, he's showing it in this kind of like apologetic way that's like, hey, listen, all this other stuff before was because I wasn't ballsy enough or I wasn't willing to show premise, right? And this is very common, right? This is not to like, you know, be hard on this particular guy. I see this all the time, that there's basically two modes that the students have. It's like no premise, no premise, no premise, no premise, and then desperate declaration of love. Right? And I don't know if desperate declaration of love quite fits this, but the point is he's showing a lot of premise all of a sudden once she's already kind of made the determination she wants nothing to do with it, right? He would have been much, much, much better off to just show that premise up front when she was still kind of assessing him and still kind of like giving him kind of a chance.
Compliment.
Huh?
Have a good day.
All right. Excuse me? You look really badass right now, so I have to come and talk to you.
Oh,
What's your name?
that's sweet.
Okay, so here we look a little bit better than the last set, at least in the sense that premise, in a sense, is being shown right away. Like, you look very badass. It's not necessarily a man-to-woman premise, but it is at least a premise of, I want to talk to you. I think you're cooler than the average random person on the street, right? And this is something that a lot of guys do if they have trouble showing premise in their sets, is what they'll do is they'll show premise on the open. And I actually recommend this for beginners. I actually think that it's good in a way to open a bit direct or have some premise on your open if you're a beginner. So this sets off to a much better start than the last one, but let's see what he does with it.
I feel like you'd be really like a yoga instructor or something.
No.
You just like came from run or something?
No, I just came from therapy.
Therapy?
Yeah.
Therapy? What kind of therapy?
Okay, so he was doing well. Showed some premise, and then he made a kind of an assertion about her as opposed to a question, and that was really good, right? So up to there, it was really good. But then he started in with the questions again. And now it's starting, you can already tell with like that first question, it started to go negatively. Also, I don't know if he got a little unlucky here. Like, I just came from therapy. That's a little bit like, it's a little bit of a heavy topic. It's kind of like cool that she's opening up and willing to say that to you, but it is a heavy topic. You have to be a little careful of digging too deeply into that one. So it's a bit of a landmine. But the more important thing in a general sense from a format bit is that he started with premise, and now within just a few seconds, now he's back to a very platonic conversation. And the way that it works with premise is you have to kind of get to a certain threshold before it exists, right? It's like, if you make one kind of premisey statement, maybe you've established it. You make two or three, you've definitely established it. And then at that point, you just need to maintain it. So then you can have a more normal conversation, but you have to just keep reminding. What he did is he did one statement of premise, which is probably not enough to fully establish the premise, and then he immediately went back to platonic. So whatever premise he's established is very, very quickly going to be diminished.
Like, you know, the kind that's for your mental health.
Like, is it some kind of a new yoga where you just yoga and do the therapy all together?
No. You're a therapy guy.
That's it.
And look again, walking behind her, right? Not quite as bad as in the previous example, but very, very quickly, right? Walking behind. If you were to be, I don't know, about a yard further ahead of what he is, it would be massively, massively better for the vibe of the interaction.
Huh?
Talk a lot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Where are you going right now?
I gotta go. Somebody go home.
Okay. I was just walking that way, so I was just gonna...
Okay, so credit to him for persistence. Credit to him for saying, oh, I'm just walking that way and continuing. Because most guys just give up in this situation. But this is going rapidly downhill. Why? Question, question, question. Platonic, platonic, platonic. Walking behind. So he's very quickly put himself right in the same situation he was in with the previous girl, which is that he's chasing, he's not conveying his personality, those kind of things. Now he started off a lot better, remember. He started off with a decent open and a decent follow-up to the open, right? So that was good, but then after that he fell right in that same bad habit of question, question, question. So what could he be doing better? He could be making statements instead of asking questions, having opinions, teasing, any of these different kinds of things would be miles and miles better. And then, of course, again, walking beside or in front of the girl rather than behind would make a massive difference as well.
All right, have a nice day.
Yeah, that long awkward silence was pretty much the end of it. Leaves kind of, by saying have a nice day, saves some face, I guess. But yeah, that long awkward silence, not going to work. Basically, you cannot leave silences until she's a little bit hooked, a little bit engaged, right? Later on when she's hooked and engaged, you actually want to leave silences so that she can chase and she can participate. But with a girl that isn't engaged yet, silences are really just like the kiss of death. And as you can see there, you saw how it was getting like very awkward, and in order to relieve the awkwardness, he eventually just said goodbye.
What's your name? What are you doing? Just taking a picture of a random shoes?
Well, yeah.
Is that what you do?
Online.
What is that for?
I'm returning books.
Huh? Returning books?
Yeah.
Okay, so again, opener, a little bit premisey, right? Actually his tonality was much better this time, right? Kind of biting if you hear it. And then introduced himself, which doesn't convey man to woman premise, but it conveys at least friend to friend premise, which is a great place to start. So that's all completely fine. Started off in a good way, right? What are you doing, right? Fine. But now he's again getting into questions. So let's see where he goes from here.
Is it for the library?
Yeah.
Okay. I guess you're like a reader, a lot of...
I was a student until recently.
How old are you?
24.
24. I'm just curious. Just getting to know you a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, decent. I mean, he's still asking a question, which is a problem. His tonality is a little bit better, and the whole curious, just getting to know you a little bit. At least it conveys a little bit of premise, right? So it's a little bit better. A little bit better. He's still not really conveying his personality much. He's still just asking her a lot of questions, right? So it's very hard for her to have any kind of sample of who he is. And I mean, at this point, if he were to, at this point, this set is workable, right? If he were to start doing the right things, i.e. teasing a little bit, i.e. conveying some opinions, conveying his personality a little bit more, those kind of things, this is a totally good situation. Like, the girl's actually engaging, she's laughing a little bit, etc. But if he goes back to old habits, what we've seen from the previous interaction, you just ask question after question after question, you're going to see her, the attraction is just going to fade, just like what we've seen in the previous interactions.
So what do you like to do?
Well, I'm at work.
You're at work right now? What do you do?
I work
Returning
on a
books?
podcast, yeah.
Okay. I was walking that way anyways.
Okay.
So again, decent job of at least staying with her. I was walking that way anyway. Totally fine, although kind of a lie since you did stop, but whatever. But what's come of this set? Question. He is at least walking in front of her, although he was kind of ahead of her, so we'll see how long that lasts.
So you're like a librarian? No? Just like returning books to the studio?
Yeah.
That's like an awesome job, to be honest. You just like walk around the city and just return books.
Okay, he's clearly grasping at things to say, because walking around the city returning books does not sound like a cool job at all, right? And this is essentially, and again, now where is he walking? Behind her again. So all the same kind of habits. Questions, getting into her frame, putting her on a pedestal, like thinking everything about her life is cool, not conveying his personality at all.
Once in a blue moon.
Oh, okay, that's not your whole job?
No.
Oh, okay.
Not at all.
I was like, damn, I want to get that job. All right, I think I gotta go that way. Oh, you're going that way? Okay. All right, shit, all right.
And that was actually clever, right? He saw her turning and then said, oh, I think I'm going that way. That's actually pretty clever and pretty smooth. It can be difficult if you are, walking with / following a girl and she changes directions a lot. So actually the way he handled that was pretty good. I have to give him credit for that.
So how long have you been living here?
So again, you have that fundamentally awkward situation. Nothing to say. She's not participating. Why? Because question. You haven't really gotten the hook. You're walking behind her. And again, just over time, it gets worse and worse. This actually started out as a good set. This started out as a set where the girl was reacting well. She was conversing, engaging. But now it's just become kind of needy, very much just try hard in terms of question after question after question. And then again, boring questions. These aren't even questions he cares about the answer to.
A couple of years. What about you?
Well, I'm just visiting my friend. I was just waiting for my friend. I was just walking that way.
Where are you from?
Okay, so he got massively lucky here, right? This girl did not have to engage with him. He probably didn't necessarily really do enough to deserve to have a girl engage with him that often. But now she's asking him questions, which is great. If the girl's asking you questions, you are in a wonderful, wonderful position, in the sense that you can start conveying your personality, which is what's been missing here, right? However, the question is, how is he going to convey his personality? Because he has an opportunity to convey himself as very cool, to convey his life as very interesting, to convey that he's excited and passionate about things, or he can just be logical and go through the motions. Let's see what he does.
Take a guess. You can be as racist as you can.
Yeah, not my
Go
answer.
ahead.
Sorry. Hang on. Hey.
Okay, so here she picks up her phone. And that's pretty, I guess, unfortunate for him because it was starting to actually go kind of okay again, right? He was actually conveying his personality. Actually, she was asking him some questions, etc. But why did she pick up the phone? Because he really hasn't done enough overall to really captivate her, and she's not super, super bought in. So, she doesn't have a strong reason not to. And as you can imagine, if it's been, kind of awkward and not going amazing before picking up the phone, now he has to deal with, he's walking with her, she's on the phone, it's super awkward, he looks even needier, and it's just going to go downhill from here.
Hello. I know this is totally random. I just walking by. I just saw you and I thought you were really cute.
Thank you.
What's your name?
Sorry, I'm on the phone.
Just tell him you just met a cutest guy ever.
My name is...
Okay, so I actually don't mind this so much, right? So I don't like the, hey, this is totally random bit because it's kind of excusing yourself. But at beginner level, don't mind it so much. He actually showed some premise. He actually made it man to woman. I think here he got a bit unlucky. I think here, if he did this approach, a lot of times he would actually get some positive responses. He just got very unlucky in terms of this girl being kind of on the phone and being engaged and that sort of stuff, right? And then, what he says afterwards, a little bit bold, a little bit probably too over the top, but at least he's trying the right sort of things. So I give him some credit for that.
Who are you calling to? Can I talk to him?
No.
Can I just tell him hi, I'm your future son-in-law. Just tell her you're gonna call back.
Okay, so again, I appreciate what he's trying to do here. A lot of people give this as advice to hey, hang up, tell her this, tell her that. And I guess it can work every once in a while. You have to understand, though, whoever's on the other end of that phone can hear you. And when you are being that blatant about it and when you're being that obvious about it, it makes it almost more awkward for the girl because it looks like, oh, this guy told me to hang up on you, and I did, right? It actually makes her look extraordinarily slutty. So as much as there are people that teach say, oh, tell her to hang up, that kind of stuff. And it can work once in a blue moon, but it's one of those things that I don't think is high percentage at all. And I see so many students try it, and I never, ever, ever see it work. So being this brazen, I don't think works really well. One thing that I do in these situations that's kind of interesting is that what I'll do is she's on the phone like that, and I notice it, then I'll actually take out my phone, and I'll just start writing messages on my phone and showing her the messages while she's talking, right? And this is, it's cute, it's clever, it's less invasive, and more importantly, maybe, the person on the other end of the line doesn't hear it. Because again, if the person on the other end of the line hears you saying, hey, hang up, hey, I'm cuter, that kind of stuff, it just makes her look really slutty if she does. Right? But if you're just messaging and the person on the other end of the line doesn't know, then she can make her own excuse. And so I'll do things like I'll message, you're very cute, it's too bad you're on the phone right now, so we can't, have a wild romance. Something like that, like something kind of funny, she'll just laugh and giggle. And then maybe I'll, then the same thing he kind of said, hang up, I'm cuter, but I say it as a message so she can respond. And if she's responding well to that, maybe a third message would be something like, really bad service here, isn't it? Kind of encouraging her to get off the phone. But notice the difference of doing it in the subtle way, which is via a message that she can see, as opposed to verbally. Because again, the person on the other end of the phone can hear it, right? Put yourself in this girl's shoes. As much as I appreciate his boldness, I appreciate the fact he's trying, she's on the phone with her mom, right? She's like, Mom, I'm a slut. I'm going to hang up on you to talk to some random guy. It's just a big ask for her. And it's not going to work on a very high percentage basis. Although again, given the issues he's had and given his sticking points, I actually commend him for trying this. But it's a bit too bold and a bit too over the top.
Oh, you did? See, I just got the score from your mom.
Sorry, it's a really important conversation. Can I get your phone number?
What about I get your number?
Okay.
And I'll call you. All right. There we go.
And good for him. That worked this one time. I still stick to the fact that I think it's a little bit brazen. I don't think it'll work often. And she's clearly uncomfortable. However, what happened? He actually showed some premise. He actually showed some balls. He showed some personality. And I guess she was a little bit impressed. So good things can happen, right? And that just goes to show the sort of like beginner intermediate kind of numbers game thing, which is even if you're not doing things perfectly, even if you're not very subtle, right? If you just put it out there what your intentions are and you do follow a process, even if you're not subtle about it, there will be some girls that are definitely going to like it, and there'll be some girls that are definitely just open and good things can happen, right? Whereas look at the previous interactions where it was just question, 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 no premise. Those ones had almost no chance of working.
All right. Well, you gotta type your name too. I totally forgot. What was it?
Danielle.
Danielle. Do you live around here or?
Yes.
Okay. I'll just give you a text or something.
Okay.
All right. Have a good day.
Okay, cool. So he ends on a number. Good for him. And he actually, again, showed some premise. Actually got to the point a little bit and put himself out there. Now, again, I don't think he did it in the best or most subtle way, but kind of an awesome result. Picked up the girl on the phone, managed to make it work, etc. All right, so very, very good job for him. One thing I'll also point out as you're watching these is that the students typically are getting a little bit of coaching throughout. So he will have gotten, probably told to get to the point a little bit more, told to like show some premise, that kind of stuff. So clearly he's actually following instruction, and you can see the results of that effort. Now, again, a little bit bold, a little bit brazen, not subtle, but again, at a beginner level, I don't want you to be subtle. I want you to kind of just put it out there and say, you know what, here I am, I like you, so what of it? And just be unapologetic. You'll learn subtlety as you go forward, as you become more intermediate, more advanced. And you can see definitely the difference. Even though this is sort of a more difficult situation, girl on the phone, than some of the others, you can see the difference when he actually does get to the point and he just openly is like, hey, I like you, let's make this happen. I'm a bit persistent even. So if any of the things you see from this guy remind you of your own game, I would say watch and rewatch the premise sections of the system over and over and over again. And just understand the importance of that element. Understand that until the girl knows what you're there for, knows that it's man to woman, you aren't gaming yet. All right? And then the next thing would be to work on kind of becoming more subtle in your premise. Work on push-pull, right? Get to the point that doing a push-pull is the most natural thing in the world. Or work on, giving compliments, but softening them ever so slightly so you're not giving your power away. And the other thing I would say is to just give yourself a lot of permission. Just assume that you are a cool person. Assume that when you talk about yourself, people are going to want to hear that. Because this guy in particular, he never really talked about himself. In all of the interactions you look at, do you know a single fact about him? No. Right? You know not a single fact about him. So even like when he gets a number like this last interaction, what does the girl really know? She knows that here was this guy that was bold and asked me for a number when I was on the phone with my mom, but she doesn't know what he's about, what his philosophy is, what his attitude is. He hasn't really conveyed his personality. So those are the things I'd focus on here is number one, showing premise, number two, showing you, right? Get to the point of what is on offer and what is the nature of the conversation. And then the next level from there would be subtlety, but just getting to the point and showing who you are is more important than subtlety at the start.